Hello and welcome to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. This podcast has evolved over the 5+ years since it first launched. From now on, I'm going to be talking about deepening your connection with yourself, taking inspired action, and really trusting yourself and your intuition. And also mindset, of course, but mindset of all kinds, not just business mindset. I think. Things are changing for me, as you may have noticed if you've been following me online or listening to this podcast, so anything goes here. I hope you stay along for the ride. Thank you so much for joining us today, and now let's get into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Into the Woods podcast, episode 360. This is your host, Holly Worton, and I'm back with another solo episode. Today, I'm going to talk about what to do when a friend seems much more accomplished or successful than you are or you think you are. This week's topic was sent in by a listener who wanted to know how to be when a colleague or a friend seems so much more accomplished than oneself. Now, I've done a few episodes that touch on this topic, but I think it's always good to have a reminder of how to deal with having a friend or a colleague or an acquaintance who seems to be so much more accomplished or successful than we think we are. So what are you going to learn today? I'm going to talk about what to do when your friend seems so much more accomplished or successful, how to get back on track, how to stay in your own lane, and how to keep your eyes on your own path. Basically, how to take this situation and flip it on its head and use it to your advantage and get out of that crappy place where you're comparing yourself to other people. Before I get into this week's episode, I wanted to invite you to check out my new book on Amazon. I have been writing a series of short reads books called the Into the Woods Short Reads. And these are all short ebooks that are intended to be read in about a half an hour, more or less. And they're based on podcast episodes. So if you're listening to this podcast, as you are, maybe you prefer to get your information by listening. Or maybe you like listening to podcasts, but you prefer to learn by reading. I'm that kind of person. I really enjoy listening to podcasts, but I just don't retain the information. So that's why I have taken some of my podcast episodes and repurposed them into these short, actionable ebooks. So the very first one that I did was released last month, and it was called How to Add More Adventure to Your Life. And this month, actually over the weekend on Friday, I released my second one, which is called How to Practice Self-Love. It's practical steps you can take to love yourself more today. Again, you can read it in about half an hour. It's short, sweet, actionable, and I would love for you to check it out. So if you head over to getbook.at/ITWSR2, that's Into the Woods Short Reads 2, that will redirect you to your local Amazon store. Now, I'm starting to publish my books, particularly my ebooks, wide, which means that I will be publishing them not just on Amazon, but on all major ebook platforms. I started out publishing wide from the very beginning, and my first, I think, 6 or 7 books were like that. And then last year, my book launch mentor suggested or highly recommended that I only publish on Amazon because then I could take advantage of Kindle Unlimited. And while that's been an interesting experiment, I've done the math and I think I can not only make more money by publishing my books wide, but get my books obviously out there to a wider audience because not everyone has a Kindle, not everyone buys their books on Amazon. And by publishing my books wide, it means that people can get them in libraries. I've recently put together a spreadsheet of all of my sources of income and where people have been buying my books for the last 5 years. And there have been several requests for my books from libraries and purchases of my books for libraries. So coming soon, you can get all of my books on libraries. So if you can't afford to buy them, please do check your local library and request it there. If they can't get it for whatever reason, know that I will be publishing all of my books to a wide audience as soon as I can get out of my contract with Kindle Unlimited. So that will be happening little by little. Again, that is my new Into the Woods Short Reads book, How to Practice Self-Love. So getting back on today's topic. what to do when a friend seems so much more accomplished. Now, I think this is a really great topic because I've been on both sides of this situation. I have been in a situation where my friends have said to me that they feel like I've been getting so much done and like, slow down. What are you doing? You've published so many books or done so much stuff. And I've been on the side where I feel bad about myself because some of my friends seem to be so much more accomplished or successful than I am. So I think this is a really interesting situation to be in when talking about this because I can see both sides of it. So for many years, I've had a couple of friends that I've mentioned before on this show, I'm sure, who I did my coaching training with. And the vast majority of people that I did my training with have gone on to not do much with it. A lot of them tried to make their coaching business work and ultimately had to go back to a full-time job or they're coaching on the side, but most of them have not made a full-time business out of it. However, there have been a couple of people that have been really successful with their coaching business. And for the longest time, I was happy for them because they're my friends, but I felt not so much envious, not so much jealous, certainly not resentful, but I used their success or their perceived success to feel bad about myself. So that's not very good. It's not very useful. And maybe you're in a situation like that. Maybe you have friends that seem more accomplished, more successful, seem to be doing better in life. And that could make you feel a variety of things. It could make you feel jealous, resentful, bad about yourself, whatever. So I think the thing to start with is look at the situation. And this is something that maybe you want to explore, just kind of thinking about it, or maybe you want to journal about it. I prefer journaling, as you know, because it gets the stuff out of my head and onto paper where I can see it. And it seems to be more objective when I do that. Like it seems to be less nasty. It seems to be more manageable. So I recommend journaling, but not everyone likes that. So anyway, get the stuff out of your head and look at it. Look at the situation and try to look at it objectively and see, okay, first of all, what is it that they have that you want? Do they seem more accomplished? Do they seem more successful? And why? What is it that they're doing that you want? What is it that they've achieved that you want? What are these specific things that they have in their life that you do not have in your life? And next, how do you feel about it? Are you angry? Are you sad? Are you depressed? Are you resentful? Are you jealous? How do you feel about their accomplishments, about their success? Next, really get clear on the situation. Are you using their success to feel bad about yourself? And again, if so, what flavor of bad is that? Is it sad, depressed, hopeless? And then, as always, flip it on your head. How can you use their success to motivate yourself? How can you look at what they've done and apply that to your own life? And look at what would you rather have instead? Do you want exactly what they have, or do you want something else? Because, like, when I think about these friends that have, their coaching business, a successful coaching business, I don't want what they have. Like, I've now realized that I don't want to be filling up my calendar with coaching calls. I want to be writing books. That is my thing. I love writing. It fills me with joy. Yes, I also love client calls, but they're also really draining of my energy, and I can't do a lot of them. So I don't want to fill up my calendar with coaching calls at all, because it's just not manageable for me energy-wise. So I don't want what they have. I want something else. Like, I do want to be successful. I do want to be making a full-time living from my writing. And I don't want a calendar full of coaching calls. So remember that your metric of success should not be your friend's success. You need to set your own metric. So say, again, my friends have full calendar of coaching clients. I don't want that. What do I want instead? I want to be making a certain amount of money from my books. I want to be making a certain amount of profit from my books. I want to eventually get to the point where I can be making a full-time living from my books and writing full-time, whatever that means for me. Obviously, part of being a full-time writer is marketing and building my platform and advertising and also writing. But eventually, I do want that to be my full-time situation. So set your own metric. What does success look like to you? What would make you feel successful? What would make you feel accomplished? And remember, you don't know the whole story. So with one of my friends who's got the successful coaching business, I know her well enough to know the whole story. She was making multiple six figures for a while, but was really stressed and anxious on the back end. Since then, things have changed. She's restructured her business, but I know that it was difficult for her. Like she was making great money, but the back end of things was really difficult. She had a team that was really challenging to work with, and she was just overwhelmed with work. So it would be easy for someone who didn't know the whole story to look at her and be like, wow, I want what she's got, when maybe you don't want the whole package of what that person has. So remember, in most cases, you don't know the whole story. If this person that seems so much more accomplished or successful to you is a good enough friend that you know the whole story, or you think you know the whole story, take that into consideration. Not everything is what it seems. So, what to do? Stay in your own lane. Now, I've talked before about quitting the comparison game. Comparing yourself to other people is not a good thing, unless you're doing it to learn something from the situation. But oftentimes we compare ourselves to other people to feel bad about ourselves. I've done that a lot. So my advice, as always, is to stay in your own lane. How do you do that? Start by reevaluating your year's plan and your goals. Now, I recently looked at my 2020 calendar for this year and reevaluated everything because coronavirus, while it hasn't disrupted my life as much as it has other people's lives, it has changed things a lot. So let's take a look at how things have changed so you can see how you can apply this to your own plan. So far, I have been on track with my first 2 business mindset books. I have published the second edition of Business Beliefs and Business Blocks in ebook, paperback, and audio. I have just published the audiobooks. I'm super excited about that. I'm really excited about having more audiobooks available. And once those have been published and they've gone live, I will be sharing snippets of those here on the podcast. So I'm really excited about that. Super on track with that. South Downs Way. I have released the second edition of that book in print and ebook. I have not yet recorded the audiobook because recording audiobooks is exhausting and I needed a break after doing the first 2 business books. So I will be doing that this year, but I haven't completed the audio yet. My Into the Woods short reads books. That is something new that I added to my publishing calendar after the year started. And I've completed the first 5 of those, which was my goal for this year. 2 of them are live and available to purchase. The other 3 are set up as pre-orders online. Super excited about that. I'm on track to do, it's on track. I've pushed the deadline for my second 2 business mindset books, Business Visibility and Business Intuition, I've pushed those back a couple of months because I wasn't able to do workations for 2 months, and that's when I get the bulk of my writing done. So this is the first thing that I've reevaluated. I pushed those back a couple of months. I've restructured when I'm going to work on those and when I'm going to publish those, and I'm really happy with that. I was going to walk the Camino Portugués this year. I was going to walk the Camino Inglés this year. That's obviously not going to happen. It's also not going to happen next year because next year is a holy year and the trails are going to be crazy busy. So those 2 books aren't going to get written until 2022. Not crazy about that, but, I've made peace with it. So that's a change. I've added 2 other things to my publishing calendar for this year. I've got a 2021 planner based on my annual planning, how I set my own goals and how I create my own plans for each year. That's going to be coming out in October. I haven't started work on that yet, but it's very simple and I've got more than enough time to do that. So that's new. I also have some plant spirit short reads books, so kind of like my Into the Woods short reads books, but I'm going to be channeling a message from a plant spirit and then adding some practical information to that. So I've got 5 of those that I want to release by the end of the year. Probably they're going to go live in the last 5 months of the year, and I'm super excited about that. And I'm on track for that. So I've got that all under control. So as you can see, some things have been canceled. Well, not canceled, greatly postponed. Some things have been mildly postponed, but that's the plan. Other things have changed a lot more. So kickboxing, haven't had classes in 2 months. So I obviously won't be attending the summer course at the end of this month because there isn't going to be one. I don't even know if there's going to be a winter course. So I'm probably not going to be getting my black belt this year. I'm probably not going to be doing my grading until next year. At this point, I've kind of mentalized myself for the summer course of next year, but maybe it's going to be winter of next year. I don't know. Hopefully sooner rather than later, because I'm not getting any younger and it's going to be really challenging. But I've made peace with that because I've seen that it's definitely not going to happen this year. One thing that I am behind in working on is I've been working through my Druid Obod grade training. I haven't done much of that in the last few months. So I'm definitely behind on that. And that's something that I miss and I want to pick up. So that's kind of how I went through my calendar of my goals and plans for this year and have figured out how I need to rearrange things to still feel like I'm happy with my year. And even though there are some things that I just cannot control and there's still a lot of uncertainty this year, so I don't know what's going to be happening. So that's me. So go back to your goals, go back to your plans, and reevaluate your year's goals and plans and see what you need to do. See how you need to adjust deadlines perhaps, see what you might need to do differently, see what you need to make a priority, see what you need to take different actions on, and keep your eyes on your own path. No, because the timing is different for everyone. Some people seem to have overnight success, even though obviously there's no such thing. We don't know what work they've been putting into in the background. Some people just have different timing, and sometimes the timing of our life doesn't coincide with what we want it to be. It just means we need to try new things. We need to try different things. We need to take new actions. We need to take different actions. We need to do something different. And we need to take action towards our goals. So that is the practical action bit. There's also mindset work that you can do to make yourself feel better about where you are on your path. Gratitude work is really, really good for this. Just make a list of things that you're grateful for. I know a lot of people resist this. I know a lot of people hate this. As I've said before, it's not work that I do on a constant basis. I just do it on an as-needed basis. If I'm not feeling well, if I'm feeling bad about myself, if I'm feeling bad about my life, I get out my journal and I write a list of 10 things that I'm grateful for. Period. I don't do it every day. you can do it every day. Do what works for you. But gratitude work is really good for getting me to kind of shift my perspective and get into an attitude of gratitude, and get me in a better mind place for taking the right actions. And so you might want to do the gratitude work before you reevaluate your plans and your goals for this year, because it might get you in a better place. Also, forgiveness work. I've been doing a lot of forgiveness work lately. It's something that I've resisted in the past, and I've kind of done it sporadically, but I've been doing it every day, and I feel like it's really helping. So what I do is Ho'oponopono. I say the statements, either just I repeat them as a mantra, or I will sit in the whole brain posture and do them, and you can Google what that is and see videos. So that's a really, really good way of doing it. I have been falling asleep at night repeating the words from the Ho'oponopono prayer as a mantra. There are different versions of that. The one that I do is, I forgive you, please forgive me, I'm sorry, I love you, thank you. And I just repeat that over and over in my mind until I fall asleep. During the day, when I get upset with myself about something, or I'm feeling bad about myself about something, I do the forgiveness work for me. Whenever I think about someone that I'm using to feel bad about myself, I do the forgiveness work for them. If I have negative thoughts about someone throughout the day, I stop and I do forgiveness work for them. What I do during the day is I basically repeat that prayer over and over until I feel relaxed. And that really seems to help. And it gets me in a good mindset place. So again, you might want to do some gratitude work and or forgiveness work before reevaluating your plan and your goals. But all of this stuff will help you get back on track. You might need to take new, different actions. You might need to do something different. If you are feeling stuck on your path, get support. Hire a coach or mentor. Get support from a friend. Get support from your mastermind group. My Master Gut, we used to meet every other Wednesday. Now we're meeting every single Wednesday ever since lockdown started, just to stay on track and support each other during these weird times. So do what you need and get help. Get support when you need it. So that is about all for today. To recap, look at the situation. Look at what they have that you want. What is it that they have that you want? How do you feel about that? What would you rather have instead? Are you using their success to feel bad about yourself? And if so, how can you use their success to motivate yourself? And look at what it is that they have. Do you want exactly that, or do you want something else? And remember, use that information to reevaluate your year's plan, your goals, and do some gratitude work. Do the forgiveness work if you need help to get back on track, and also get support from someone else so that you can get unstuck. Finally, I've got some related episodes that might help with this. Episode 349, Joanna Hennon and I talk about social media, and we ask the question, is social media actually bad for your self-esteem? Episode 348, I talk about how to stop taking things personally. Episode 347, I talk about how to stop beating yourself up and start forgiving yourself. Episode 343, I talk about what to do when you feel like you're not good enough. And finally, episode 239, I talk about how to quit the comparison game for good. And that's a super relevant episode to this topic. So, hope you found this interesting and useful. Please let me know what you thought about this. You can drop me a line at holly@hollyworton.com or find me online and get in touch there. You can also send me ideas for future episodes. I really, really find it useful to know what you want to know, what you want me to talk about. Those are often the most interesting topics for me. So, finally, I would love for you to join me on Patreon. If you head to patreon.com/Holly Worton, and that's patreon.com/Holly Worton, you can join me there. Membership starts at just $1 a month, and you get exclusive access to stuff I don't share anywhere else. You also get, depending on the level you sign up at, you get free ebooks, all of the ebooks that I produce. So, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe if you haven't done so yet. If you have subscribed, please leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to this podcast. It would mean the world to me. Finally, remember to visit hollywharton.com/360 for the show notes on this episode. Next week, I will be back with Cara Wilde, who has been a guest on the show several times. We're going to be talking about values. I had this really, really good session with her a couple of weeks ago where she helped me work through my values. She helped me look at what are the values that have been guiding my actions for the last up until now, and what are my true values deep down at the soul level. It was so super useful, and we're going to talk through values, what they mean, and why they're so important. She has a really different way of working with values than I've ever worked with values before. So I expect you're going to find that episode super interesting. Thank you again for listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a great week. Thanks so much for listening to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed, at hollywharton.com. That's HOLLYWORTON.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and get support on your journey, I would love for you to join my private community on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week.